Good morning, everybody, and to everybody watching at home. I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all well. We live in exceptional times. The pace of change in our world is never going to be slower than it is today. Let that one sink in just for a second. We have never had more capacity, capability, and potential as a human race. But at the same time, we've never been in greater danger. And what I'm going to talk to you about over the next 20 minutes or so is why we should be a lot more worried than we currently are about the impact that we're having on our planet, and to give you some relief and some tools and some ways of thinking about what we can do about it today. So just to let you know, why am I qualified to talk on this topic? I work in technology, right? First things first, and I work in blockchain, as many of you do. I'm a vegan. I ride an electric motorcycle. I use plastic-free toothpaste. I am the stereotypical middle-class climate warrior, right? Greta, I am not. I'm not out there making the kind of impact that maybe I should be, but I'm trying my best. And today I want to use this platform to help share a few messages and a few learnings that I've taken away from my work in technology and what I can see that's the domain of blockchain and distributed ledger technology can help us to do more with what we already have. And also, these are my children. This is Connor and Chloe. And the main reason I want to talk to you today about social impacts and climate change is that 30 years from now, I want them to be stood on a stage like this, looking out with unconstrained opportunity and positivity, not staring into the audience, asking them, with guilt, why didn't you do more when you still could? This is the great acceleration. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see the socio-economic trends that have played out over the last 200 years. And you'll see a bunch of exponential curves: population growth, urbanization, use of transportation, all of the things that have accelerated in how we live our lives as a society in this country and all around the world. And then if you look on the right-hand side, you can see the Earth system trends, what our impact has actually led to in terms of growth in carbon dioxide, in nitrous oxide, tropical forests and deforestation, acidity of the oceans. Not growing linearly, exponentially. Right? And I'm not going to go too much into the climate science because many others have done better than that, but I do want to double click on the importance of exponential trends. Right? So if we look firstly at a linear basis, this is the thing that the human brain can understand very, very well. If we project forward from now to 2050 in years, that's 30 years, that's 30 steps. That's relatively easy for us to understand and to follow. We get that one. And 2050 is the term, or is the year that many have said we are going to be carbon neutral as organizations, as countries, as companies. And I want to tell you why that's too far away. Let's talk about 10 exponential years. Right, let's just fast forward to 2030. So if we take 10 exponential steps, doubling every year, the situation that we find ourselves in today will be 1,000 times worse 10 years from now. Right, that's how exponential curves work. Fast forward 30 years from now to 2050, the situation we'll be in will be greater than 1 billion times worse than it is today. Right, that's a pretty abstract concept, but that is a lot worse than we find ourselves today in terms of emissions in the atmosphere, in terms of global warming, in terms of pollution, in terms of deforestation. If we continue as we are, growing on an exponential curve, we may well be 1 billion times worse off 30 years from now. Now, that's not an exact science, but if I look at that and I look at my understanding of exponentials, I wouldn't be sitting comfortably in an audience like this. I would be losing my damn mind. I would be out there running around the streets saying, I am not doing enough. This is not going to work. We are not going to be able to reverse the impact that we are having on our planet if we continue accelerating. 2050 will be too late. That's enough climate scaring for the time being. I'm going to get off my soapbox and I'm going to tell you that it's hopefully going to be all okay if we apply some of the thinking that I'm going to take you through today. Right? The path that we're on is one towards scarcity. Scarcity of resources, scarcity of time to make an impact. What we need to try and create, and any of those who follow Singularity University, this is one of their core tenets, we need to try and create abundance. An abundance of talent, an abundance of data, an abundance of capacity, an abundance of capability to be able to reverse the trends that we see happening in our world today. Incremental change, incremental small improvements year on year is not going to get us to reverse that billion exponential impact by 2050. It's not going to be enough. It's going to be like asking Thanos to prevent the snap by offering him workplace sensitivity training. Right? Any of you who haven't watched The Avengers and don't know who Thanos is, please come find me afterwards. I will explain it. There's a complicated origin story, but stick with me. I'm happy to explain it after the show. What we really need is an intergalactic group of technologically advanced superheroes all working together to prevent an existential crisis. That's my analogy for the situation we find ourselves in. Again, anybody who doesn't watch Marvel or The Avengers, please come find me afterwards. We need to treat an exponential threat with exponential capabilities that we have today to drive exponential change. But people get in the way. And not just our friend Donald, anybody who is in a position of influence, whether they be leaders in government or any one of you in the room with the influence that you have. Right? There are any number of technologists out there who will happily evangelize the great technology that we have in AI, quantum, blockchain. But the dirty secret is, blockchain will not save the planet. We will. Right? Individualism, denial, short-term thinking, short election cycles, whatever you want to call it, has led us to the situation we're in today. It's not my problem. It'll solve itself. I've got more pressing things to focus on. Whereas what we actually need is to work together as a collective, to combine resources, to set transformational goals that are big enough and important enough to reverse the trends that we see in our world today. So what's blockchain got to do with all of this? Right? As I said, blockchain will not save the planet. But we can learn a few things from what we've seen over the last years in terms of how this technology has been deployed and exploited. As many of you know, blockchain is a technology for bringing multiple parties together. People who've never typically worked together on technology programs, whether that be the lowly farmer, regulators, customers, public, private sector. It's a technology for trust, for trade, for transparency. And if you bring these capabilities together, and you bring different parties together, you can create new applications, you can create new functionality, you can rewire the way things are done. You can open up networks and platforms, you can create open source communities that can work together to use that data, that channel, that scale to do something meaningful. And the interesting paradigm that has emerged over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years is the concept of a business network or a consortium. And this is important. These are global organizations, traditional competitors, all working together to build technology platforms using blockchain as the underlying fabric for those networks. And we see them in every single sector worldwide today. In finance, in distribution, in manufacturing, in public sector. Everywhere that we look, in every industry today, you'll find a business network or a consortium using blockchain technology to try and transform the way things are done. So now I've proven to you that it is possible to have some of the largest organizations working together for a common goal. How do we apply this to social impact and climate change? Well, first you need a common goal, or something that people will work together towards. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are a perfect place to look for this. 17 different categories of areas that we can all agree on are things that we need to improve. And as you go back to your organization, the companies, the institutions you work for, ask them, how do the things we do as a company relate back to some of these sustainable development goals that will be helping to reverse the trends that we're on? And are we doing enough? Do you even know? Do you even lift? And another great example is Project Drawdown. Project Drawdown is a really great resource online. You should definitely go check it out. And what they've done is they've categorized, in order of significance or potential impact, different initiatives or different themes against which we can help reduce or remove atmospheric carbon dioxide or carbon emissions from the world. And if you look at that list, you see things like materials management, renewable resources, reducing food waste, moving to a plant-based diet, better land use, reduced deforestation, education. And you can imagine in every one of those, you could find a group of organizations from across supply chains or across countries working together to address those sorts of things. And we're already seeing some of that. But these are the places to look, because this is where we're going to have the biggest impact and be able to accelerate the reversal if we focus in on these areas. But the mantra must always be the triple bottom line of people, planet, profit. So today, a lot of these networks, a lot of these initiatives have been driven by just profit. And that's understandable, right? I'm not going to judge on that. There are private organizations out there, listed companies, whose primary goal is to stay in existence, and to stay in existence, we have to generate profit so we can reinvest. Not challenging the concept of profit. But we should and we can focus on all three. Can we have a benefit on society? Can we have a benefit on the planet and also create profit? That's the equation that we're solving for. And if we're not looking at all three together and in harmony, we're getting it wrong. We're not doing enough. So I'm going to give you some examples. A few case studies of what's already being done. Again, to give you the confidence that we are able to use this technology and others for good, for the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. First one, and shameless plug, IBM Food Trust. IBM Food Trust is a platform where we're able to connect from start to finish, from the very beginning, from the farm to the customer, an entire supply chain, and track the information, the data, the status of what's happening to our food and our produce. And with that, we can look at the carbon footprint of the food that we buy. We can reduce the waste. We can optimize distribution and logistics. And we can start removing some of the carbon dioxide, or focusing with a data-driven view on the impact that our food supply chains are having on the planet. And talking to executives, talking to the business people from a profit perspective, or from a key metrics and outcomes perspective, you can look right across safety, freshness, waste, sustainability, efficiency. You can talk about as many profit drivers as you like, and you've got a compelling narrative. Another company that I love is an organization called Food Cloud. They're looking at redistributing food from retailers, restaurants across the UK and Ireland, and they've distributed, equivalent of £81 million worth of food. Reduced a significant amount of carbon dioxide, and they're making sure that that food doesn't go to waste. As we saw from Project Drawdown, the reduction of food waste is a significant driver in reducing CO2. And they're looking at creating traceability on those products as well, especially towards the end of life of food produce. We have to be super careful as to the provenance, how it's kept, how old it is, because we don't want people who are consuming those products to be ill or to be sick. IBM are working with an organization called Yara to create an open data platform for farmers and for farm data, combining logistics data, farm data, soil, weather data, consumer data, any source of information that we choose to use to make more of the agricultural ecosystems that we have, to be able to make more with the food and the scarce resources that we have to grow more, to have less pestilence, to have better efficiency in terms of how we buy and how we sell. Again, all focused on making more with the limited resources we have. And this platform is open, so anyone can contribute. Tenet is an organization in energy distribution, and they're looking to create a giant virtual power station using electric vehicles and home storage. And why this is important is because we want to reduce the waste or maximize the use of renewable energy. And the production of renewable energy is oftentimes variable. So we want to be able to use that extra storage in the system to reduce our dependency on non-renewable resources. Imagine that basically your electric vehicles will have their own wallets, and they'll be able to make money for you while you work or sleep, while also creating a giant virtual battery across Europe. Really powerful concept, and will help us to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels. Plastic Bank are creating a circular economy around the use and reuse of plastic, where individuals can collect plastic, be rewarded for doing so, and where we can incentivize manufacturers to reuse that plastic. A number of plastic and plastic-based organizations out there doing very, very similar work and using blockchain as the underlying technology. Bbox, another great organization providing solar panels as a service. So for those who need renewable energy in the developing world, but also using that solar energy to create verifiable carbon credits. so that we can also create a source of income from those particular panels as a service and to be able to expand the ecosystem and make more of what we have. Again, focus on renewables. Now, blockchain is not the only technology in all of these use cases, right? But it's one of them. And there are a number of others. We talk about artificial intelligence, augmented reality, drones, satellite data, robotics, the Internet of Things. All of these are the exponential capabilities that we get to use. These are the assets and the tools that we have to do something more, to enable the initiatives and the platforms that will allow us to reverse the trend of climate impact and damage that we're creating today. These are our exponential Avengers. So before I end the show, I'm going to leave you with a few more concepts or some learnings that can help you to identify where we can create abundance. Who's ever seen one of these before? The humble vegetable peeler. This is a lesson on innovation. 5, 10 years ago, a company came out called Oxo Good Grips, and they said, we are going to transform the vegetable peeler experience. We are going to throw all the innovation assets that we have at this underappreciated segment of the market, and we are going to create this. Safer, sharper, better grip, rubberized, ribbed for her pleasure. This is the innovative potato and vegetable peeler of the future. Right? This is innovation, guys. This is what you need. Wrong. The customer doesn't need a potato peeler that is rubberized. I just want peeled carrots. So think carefully about what is the outcome that I'm actually trying to achieve. As I'm investing in technology, as I'm investing in innovation, am I just going to create a rubberized version of the shitty process that I already have? Or do I actually want to transform towards the outcome that I genuinely want to create? Focus on outcomes, not incremental improvement on what we already have that might not be fit for purpose and that got us to the situation that we're in today. Second thing, key learning from the work that we do in blockchain is there are 3 critical domains to think about as you're building business networks or consortia. And oftentimes the technology is the first thing we do. We build a proof of concept, we say, great, blockchain is going to solve this, that, or the other. We're going to hash it, we're going to make a token, we're going to put it on a distributed ledger, we're going to send it around the world, and actually it goes nowhere. Because the business value or the governance for how we actually scale in the real world haven't been considered. And these 3 streams don't often go in parallel either. I was having a conversation on a podcast with a colleague of mine the other day, and typically, the legal process for creating a consortium can be 9 to 12 months. Right? So we can spin up a proof of concept in a few weeks. We can go to pilot or production in a few months. But the lawyers are going to take us 9 to 12 months to figure us out how we're going to do this. So actually, how you plan your initiative, your timings, and what you do and when has to be interdependent on all of these things. And the business case is critical too. We talked about people, planet, profit. Who's going to pay to transform whatever it is that you're looking at? Because not oftentimes this technology comes for free. Building a new platform in any technology costs something. Where are the incentives? Who benefits the most? Not all consortium participants are equal. We want to talk about fair. But we have to invest people, time. This platform has to run. It has to be supported. Right? The business case is critical for that. But ultimately, it still comes down to a matter of hearts and minds. Right? We talked about people standing in the way of progress. We still need to influence the people out there to take action. As we said, people get in the way of progress oftentimes. So how do we tell a compelling story for those out there, for the people who, when you leave this show, you are going to go out and influence and talk about the things that we can do differently and better? First things first, you've got to start with a common enemy, a common goal. As I said, oftentimes these are traditional competitors who have to work together to create a startup. People who've hated each other, who fought for decades. If we don't have something that we can all agree on, we're in trouble. Whether that be fraud, whether that be profit, or whether that be an impending existential crisis. I think we can probably all agree on that one. But if you don't have that common thread that everybody can get behind, if anybody is not interested or it steps on any of their competitive territory, you might have a problem. So So think very carefully about what is the mission statement and the common goal. Secondly, you're going to need a facilitator. You can't just expect these guys to sit into a room and be happy families all of a sudden. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some orchestration. And thirdly, you're going to need some lawyers. We are going to break stuff. Right? One of my favorite phrases is, blockchain needs more lawyers. And to anyone out there listening, this is one of the most important things I will say today. When we work together and create and transform, we are breaking the current way of thinking, whether that be regulation. A lot of the regulation out there is based on the idea of a centralized single party who holds all the data. That's not the way that we work anymore. We're going to be dealing with intellectual property, with funding, potentially with areas like antitrust or data privacy. First person you call in those instances is going to be your lawyer. So lawyer up, guys. In summary, we need to use exponential technologies and work together to solve an exponential crisis and deliver exponential change. The mantra, as always, is people, planet, profit. If you're missing one of those three, you're not doing enough. Go back to the drawing board. There's some good news for those of you who are fans or aware of Moore's law. The technology that we have is only going to get more capable, right? Technology is growing exponentially too. The capacity or the power or the performance of technology is growing exponentially. And we haven't even got into quantum yet. That's coming too. So we're going to have an even stronger arsenal with which to play. And we have demonstrated that some of the largest companies in the world can work together to create instantly scaled global startups. That's an important thing to have proved. So remember, blockchain will not save the planet. You will. And the people you will influence, or the networks that you will create. We do not need any more technology evangelists in 2020. What we need is influencers. And I'm going to leave you with a quote from Davos, a guy called Surya Karki from Nepal, wonderfully wise young man. If we don't take care of our planet, profit will be a useless concept. So as you go back to your organizations and institutions, take with you the triple bottom line of people, planet, profit. Take with you the evidence of what we have been able to achieve in a limited time without focusing too much on the bigger picture. And remember that what we have is only going to get better from a technology perspective, but that we don't have a lot of time. So please, when you leave here today, or when you leave your desk or your comfortable place where you're sitting at home, move quickly for all of our sakes. Thank you.